Alright, geometry, now lesson 32. We're going to construct a 9-point circle again. So during this unit we've learned many constructions. So all unit 1, lesson 1 through 32. Now that you've mastered these constructions, write a list of advice for someone who is about to learn the constructions you've learned for the first time. What did and did not help you? What tips do you wish you had at the beginning that would have made it easier along the way? So yeah, email me feedback for a few bonus points. I'd really love to know, honestly, really, good or bad, any feedback. So I'm going back to the circle that we drew in yesterday's lesson, in lesson 31. We drew triangle ABC, and it looks like I made a mistake right here. I think that was a C. I'd have to go look. I'm sure I corrected it at some point. So we want to find the center of this circle. And to do this, we need to draw and inscribe a triangle. That's a triangle inside of the circle, LMN. Points LMN are already there. If you remember, it's the midpoint of each side is LMN. And we want to find the circumcenter of triangle LMN and label it as U. If you remember, the circumcenter of a triangle is the center of the circle that circumscribes the triangle, which in this case is the 9-point circle. So the circumcenter is the center of the triangle on the outside, the center of the circle on the outside of the triangle. There's the triangle. So we're trying to find the center of the circle, and to do so we find the circumcenter of triangle LMN. So let's go ahead and do that. So find the circumcenter of triangle LMN and label it as U. To do that, we find the perpendicular bisector of each side. Perpendicular bisector and perpendicular bisector. I didn't mark the perpendicular. To do a perpendicular bisector, so for instance, if I want the perpendicular bisector of side LM, I point my pointy end on M and draw a circle to cross over right there. Let's do that in red. Draw the circle, then I put my pointy end on L, and I didn't open or close the compass at all, and then we find our perpendicular bisector. Okay? Let's show that one more time. So pointy end on M, and I've got a circle, and then pointy end on L, and another circle, and that gives me my perpendicular bisector. Okay? Let's try another side. If I put the pointy end on L and draw a circle, let's see. Got this circle right here. And on N, then I have my perpendicular bisector right there. It's hard to see when I've left all the pencil marks on there. Let's try one more time. M and N. So pointy end on N. I draw my circle, and then M, and I draw my circle. And that gives the perpendicular bisector right there. Cool. And we have right in the middle, U. And that should be a little perpendicular mark right there. Cool. So the circumcenter of triangle LMN is the center of the circle that we made. Okay, construction 2. Construct the circle that circumscribes triangle A, B, and C. Okay, it was a little more difficult to get this circle drawn. Looks like I corrected that vertex over there. It is C. So draw that circle, and we're going to try to find the center of that circle, which means we're going to find the circumcenter of triangle ABC. But that's a lot of drawing on there. So if we do the perpendicular bisectors of these sides, we should find the center of the circle. Okay, so find the circumcenter of triangle ABC, which is the center of the circle that circumscribes triangle ABC. Label its center CC. So the same thing. Oh goodness. I found the perpendicular bisectors of each side, and these sides are much bigger. So the perpendicular bisector right there, I'll erase all this in a second. Green. Perpendicular bisector of this side is right here. And let's get a blue. The perpendicular bisector of this last side. And we found the center and labeled it CC. Now the instructions say draw the segment that joins point H, and I've erased point H. Point H is from that original drawing of yesterday, which we did the altitudes. It's where all the altitudes met. If you can see that right there. This one's going to be hard to draw. Cool. So point H, draw the segment that joins point H, which was the orthocenter from the construction of the 9-point circle in lesson 31, to point CC. So got point H to point CC, and find the midpoint of the segment you drew in step 3 and label it point U. But point U was already there because point U was part of the construction we did of triangle LMN, which is the center of the 9-point circle. It's a lot of drawing on there. Okay, let me spell that out for you. 1 second. So the center U is the midpoint of the segment from the orthocenter H to CC, which was the center of the new triangle, or sorry, the circle that we drew. That is the relationship. Okay, exploratory challenge. This one threw me for a loop, so I worked through it for quite a while to make sure I could explain it to you guys. First thing I'd like you to do is construct a square ABCD and pick a point E that's between B and C. Oh, I have since relabeled those corners. A, this is B, C, and D. The segment forms a right triangle. So we have a right triangle here. And a trapezoid. Okay? Really, the trapezoid we're not going to use at all, but just telling you those are the shapes that it created. We are going to use the right triangle, though. So this is what we're going to use to construct another circle. Okay? So first of all, find the midpoint of each side using your compass and label them as points F, G, and H. To remind you how to find those midpoints, let's see, let's do it with point E. If I put my pointy end of the compass on E and draw a circle, and the radius of the circle just has to be something bigger than halfway. Pointy end on A, draw a circle, and where this line intersects the side of the triangle, that's our midpoint. Okay, I did that 3 times and found F, G, and H. Let's erase all this. Construct the altitudes to find the orthocenter. This one was a little tricky. If you remember, altitude is the line from the vertex to the opposite side meeting at a right angle. So I constructed this carefully, but then I went to construct E and A and thought, my triangle's a right triangle, so the altitude from point E to the opposite side goes right here, and the altitude from point A to the opposite side goes right here. So this right here is 2 more points where the altitude meets the opposite side. So we have F, G, and H, which are the midpoints of the sides. I is an altitude, and random letter, 2 more altitudes. Okay? I didn't label them because I can't, because they're already labeled at D. So note, two of the altitudes meet at point D, label the third altitude I. Okay, so far we've constructed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points of our 9-point circle. It's important to point out at this point we we found the orthocenter, and then we found the midpoint from the vertex to the orthocenter. And this found our 3 more points, right? I'll show you. If you remember, on yesterday's lesson, we did, this will be just really basically drawn, altitude, 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 and then we found the midpoint from the vertex to the orthocenter of each point. And that gave us 3 more points of our circle, right? But when we have a right triangle, my orthocenter is one of the vertexes, so I can't really, so the midpoint of one side from the vertex to the orthocenter is already found because it's the midpoint. From a vertex to the orthocenter is already found because it's a midpoint. And then from the vertex to the orthocenter, wait, I can't even do the midpoint of this one. Okay, so these 2 points also mean double the data. So just a slight review, this is the midpoint of this side, this is the midpoint of this side, M is the midpoint of this side. N is also the midpoint from the vertex to the orthocenter. L is also the midpoint of the vertex to the orthocenter. And I can't do a midpoint of F to the orthocenter, okay, because the vertex and the orthocenter are the same thing, right? So my 9-point circle becomes a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-point circle. So we're missing 4 points. 2 of the altitudes are the same as the sides of the triangle. And then the midpoints of the segments made by connecting the vertex to the orthocenter are 3 more points. So we're missing 4 points. Okay? And if you notice, if you go back and look at the details of the triangle that I made, I relabeled a few points here and there. But we constructed our 9-point circle with only 5 points. And that's it for today.